The session that I'm about to share with you was a one-on-one that I had with the Artisan, illustrations by Herman, which is Marcelena is the artist, and she's a custom portrait artist, and her work is absolutely stunning. She does a mixture of line work, but also vector work and watercolor as well. And in this session, you get to hear firsthand what she's going through because it may directly relate to what you're going through. And the key areas that we spoke about were pricing, social media, really looking at what do you offer and how do you attract the right customers and how do you generate that regular income. Go and grab your craft, get ready, get yourself all set up, pop your headphones in and have a listen to the conversation that Marcelena and I had. And I know that there's going to be some nuggets of gold in there that you can apply to your handmade artisan business. You had sort of said originally, as far as the main things that you wanted to focus on, you had number one was how to turn my illustrations business to generate regular earnings. Number two, you had
Yeah.
pricing. Number three, you had socials. Number four, you had ready-made items and kind of playing with that because, I know the complications, obviously, when you're a handmade illustrator, like a hand illustrator, that there's an element of, your time is, of course, your greatest resource and about what you can actually manage. So with all those four elements, where do you want to start?
I think to start with the pricing, because everything is driven by values,
Yep.
values versus, what you get out of those values.
So if we're talking about
Mm,
pricing, I think there's a few different ways that we can look at this. And I know that when we've caught up previously, you've had a fairly
mm,
in-depth spreadsheet, I would say, which makes me so happy. I
mm.
love spreadsheets. So that's
Turns out I also like spreadsheets,
yeah. You just
especially when I find out you can turn them into graphs.
exactly,
And I'm
exactly.
like, what?
So I think
Yeah.
I think as far as how you're calculating your pricing, that makes perfect sense. But
Mm.
I think the biggest thing for me would be is when we're talking about pricing, what's the main concern? Is it that you're concerned that you're too low, you're too high, or is it about the fact that it relates to your earnings being regular? Are you trying to fit that into the price?
I think there's a lot of factors in, as you know, running a
Yeah.
business. It's not just here is what I can do and universe take it away and then everybody will like flock to you. I mean, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So I think eventually I would like some part of the universe doing its own thing,
Yeah.
and that's where the ready-made stuff comes in. But in terms of pricing, I want to cater a wide range of market, not just high end,
Okay.
because it's high end is very seasonal and very rare. So there's the potential for the lower end in terms of
So
affordability.
talk to me about that.
And
Talk to me a little bit there, though, about what's your perception of high pricing, mid pricing, low pricing? What would you see in your current offering? What do you already have those tiers?
I do have those tiers developed quite well for the vector illustration because I started with that years before the watercolor. So I think I'm specifically talking about the watercolor part.
Okay.
There's so many avenues I can explore, but eventually, after exploring the different pricing, I know that in my heart, I prefer something custom. To step foot into something that is this is already made. If you want it, you get it. It's still very alien. I'm not saying, oh, I'm poo-pooing that. I'm not going to do that. But it's just something that I haven't explored in the past. So maybe it's a matter of getting used to it. But to reach that particular segment of pricing of customers, I will have to let go certain things that makes my that makes the passion. Oh, I'm not saying it wrong.
No, I know what you're saying.
Trying to
Like
make
we're
it.
because
That's saying it like it's rubbish. It's not rubbish, but
hmm
because I'm so used to doing the connection that I have with my client. I think that's it. The connection I have with the client, the energy feeds into the work.
yeah,
So
agreed.
when you do something that is not custom, you don't have that energy.
Yeah.
and it's weird. I think it's just that's it. It's not like it's no good. It's just weird
So
because I'm not used to that.
when we talk about, I guess, pricing and what's possible in your world with actually hand painting or hand drawing items, whether
Mm.
it's vector stuff or whether it's, the watercolor, that doesn't really matter because it's still you're having to create it by hand, right? If we think about that from an hourly basis, based on how long it might take you to do a custom painting, as an example, if you put
Mm.
into factor, well, how many could I actually do on a weekly basis? Does that relate to what you're hoping to earn?
Just going back to the vector, I used to earn when I first started about 500 a week, which was pretty good. And that was doing very basic line art type stuff. But it was during lockdown, so things were
It
different.
was different. Yeah.
The government gave, yeah, the government had gave everyone these handouts. So everyone kind of in prison in their own home couldn't see families, but they do have the spending capacity.
Yeah.
So I came in at the right time,
Yeah.
and that was a good model. The price range was right. But then as things progress, it changes again.
Yeah.
My prices went up and people have less money. So now I'm rejigging everything again. And after 5 years, it's exhausting to have to rejig all the time. I want stability and like a proper structure to the pricing. That's why I did all
Do you
the
know, do you
bookwork.
know,
The
can I say something that you may not like? If you want stability and you want structure,
I know where this is going.
get a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that is absolutely the reality. Because I think that this is one of the things is that,
Oh.
we come into this and we're like, well, I want it to be this way and I want to have it this way and da da da. And it's like, that's not how business works. Business is a constant evolving space.
I don't have enough energy to be like worrying about this and making it and finding the leads. That's like I'm on 45 now. It's exhausting
We're
doing that
only
all the
just getting
time.
started. What are you talking about? This is where the journey
Oh my
begins.
God.
Okay, so there's lots of things to unpack here. I think first and foremost, when it comes to doing all of the things, it's really good to have a plan. So even though I know that you're coming to me asking about pricing, when I look
Mm,
at what you're doing, for me, it's not really what the issue is. I think, and there are no issues, right? But when we talk about what's the opportunity space, like where's the area that you can get the most amount of growth and the most bang for buck, I think the interesting thing for me is that I was looking through your socials, stalking through your socials, friendly digital stalking, and there's two key pieces in here that jump to mind immediately. First and foremost would be
yeah.
consistency. I think that
Yes.
your posting is erratic, and I get it, right? I totally get that. But when you're trying to get a customer to connect to you and to really trust you in this very intimate process where they're getting a custom portrait done,
Mm,
and I was reading through your reviews as well, which are some of the best reviews I have ever written. Like if I was you, I would be printing those up and I don't know,
oh.
like plastering them to your body and just having them as your new outfit that you wear everywhere because they are phenomenal and so heartfelt. I really do say that with absolute sincerity. I'm blown away by the reviews that you have. And that really proves the model that you have of and reiterates what you say about the connection and the energy that goes into your
Mm,
work because the customers are 100% feeling that, right? Um, but when you're talking about creating a business that has a regular income, then you have to be able to show up regularly as well. And it doesn't mean that it has to be social. There are absolutely other ways. It can be email marketing as well. That's a really good element. And there's also an in-person element I want to talk to you about as well. But um, the key thing that I find is missing in your socials, like the consistency is easy, right? Like we can put together a plan. You can work on have an accountability partner, possibly in the Made It community, right? Go, who wants to be my accountability partner and we'll keep each other on track. Like that's a really simple part to do. But the thing that's missing for me in what you're sharing is you. Like, do you know that the one thing that I love about your artwork and I love about what you create i- is you. Like, and you know, the OG made it award that we chose for you, and the team were unanimous about choosing you as that recipient as well, by the way. But then when I found that the robot by Fuzzy Wonders, which I'm obsessed with his work, of course, but the arms, and I was like, I knew straight away it was your tattoos. Like I now, the only reason I knew that about you is that because I watch your stories, right? And so whenever I see your stories pop up, I'm like, oh my God, I have to check it out. I have to check it out because you're funny, you're relatable, you're super talented. And it's probably the thing that I'm not seeing in your socials. And in the product page masterclass that we've got, the first section is about imagery and it's about show, don't tell. And you know when you're talking about the connection that you have with clients, I cannot find it, but I know it's there. I've read your reviews, but when I look at your socials, I cannot find. You're not showing me the journey that
Oh,
you
you
get
mean
to.
the review?
Not even just the review. Like there would be so many other ways that you could do this. But if I'm someone, I've just started following you, right? And I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to get a custom portrait done. Like, I'd love to get one of my mum
Right.
and dad, love to get one of my dog who passed. Like these are things that I'm like, I really would love to have those. It's like you're trying
Mm,
to work out whether or not you're a match with that person. And one of the biggest things with custom portraiture is knowing what it's going to be like. What's the journey going to be like?
the journey. Yeah. Ah, it's funny you mentioned that. Funny you mentioned that. This is a part of my brain is like Swiss cheese. Lots of holes, but there's something in the holes,
Yeah,
okay? So this particular
yeah,
hole, I was thinking, I've got to talk to Lena about this. Oh, like tell her about it. And now you mention it. I have like maybe like three series of content. Let's call it content. I
yep,
don't know what exactly it's going to be. So the first one is why why you should get custom portrait.
yep,
That's number one.
100%.
Number two, number two, how do you get it from me? So I'm not saying in general this is how you do it, but when you're dealing with me, this is how you do it. And then number three, we'll talk about, the breakdown of the prices, like between $10 to $50 is these are the options and so on and so on. Those were my three ideas. So I guess when you mention you don't know anything about me, that kind of rings a bell because when I first started the illustration business, I saw existing ones. It's a lot about the person, not the work.
Yeah,
They have like beautiful logos, like Canva logo or a picture, but then when that's pretty, and then you click on it, and the work is crap.
yeah.
And I just thought, oh, I don't want to be like that. I want it to be about the brand. I don't want it to be about me. I want to be about the work, not me, work.
So there's
And so that kind of carried after many years. That just carried over.
so your work is beautiful. Like the quality of your work is absolutely amazing. And
Thank you.
there's three kind of key areas that really stand out to me. I think your pet portraiture is just phenomenal as a starting point. And I think when we think about how connected we are to our pets as well, like that's a huge opportunity there for you in the market. I think
Mm,
that
yeah.
your family portraiture, I think when we did the medallions at Christmas and you'd reached out and said, hey, can I do some portraits for you? And then we
Mm,
went on and we did the Made It Awards, and then I also got my stepdaughter a one for her and her partner as well. You were so genuinely concerned's not the right word, but you were so committed to making them amazing. And I was like, I was, that's really special.
mm, mm. Yeah.
I actually think that when we're talking about handmade, when we're talking about artisans,
Mm,
the one of the most important factors, like of course you've got the quality of the product, absolutely. And then in line
mm,
with that is who the creator is. And it's the
yeah.
connection that happens with the creator of that product. So that means
Mm,
absolutely that it you and every artisan that is watching this needs to remember that the connection that they have with the customer is the most important bit. Now, like say example, like with the fashion label that I had, and we weren't making the
mm,
garments, and we grew to a massive, massive business, well beyond what I ever thought was possible, and it still came down to connection. Like I still had customers who would walk in and they spoke to me like they'd known me for 10 years because I had that relationship with them online. And so in that
mm,
connection, and I think it's really important to understand what that connection piece means. The connection is trust. You never buy until you have trust. So building that connection
mm,
means that
mm,
the customer is gaining trust with you, because they can see your work, but we're talking about an online space as well. They can't necessarily meet you in person and get that, that feel there. They're trusting everything that they do based on the version of you, if you want to put it like that, the version of you. And of course,
mm,
there's a slightly different version. In this process of sharing more about you
mm.
and sharing more about what it is that you create, you are building trust and recognition and
Yeah.
reliability with your customers. And it is such an important piece of the puzzle. And, if we're talking about generating a regular income, the number one way that you increase word of mouth is by when people truly trust what you're offering and they've had an incredible experience with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I would like looking at your reviews that you've got, they are such phenomenal reviews. I guarantee if you reached out to those people and said, "Hey, would you mind taking a photo of the piece in your home? And, can I share it or whatever, whatever." Based on what they've written, I'm going to say they will say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I've been very lucky because a lot of my customers were they were in not very good space when they commissioned me. That's the nature of my business. It's mostly memorial, so it's a very sad time. Yeah, and so I want to make sure that they're looked
Yeah,
after and the piece can be part of their
yeah.
healing, if you want to, or grieving or
Oh, you're
whatever.
giving me
And
chills, Marcelena. You're giving me absolute chills.
that's what I like actually. It's very exhausting for me in the end because it's like you taking on their grief. And when they say, our vision is like one of the latest pieces, the two children
Yeah.
who have now both passed, but they weren't born well, so they've had something wrong. Their short life, always in the hospital. Hey, Brucey. And then eventually, when both passed, the mother came back to me like, "Oh, my daughter's passed." And I was just like, "No," even though I knew, that what can a mother do?
Yeah.
Your child is like that. You gotta hold on to her as long as you can. But it made me sad for a long time. But it's worth it because that pace, it's for life.
Do you know, so everything,
But unfortunately, not all work can be like that.
so everything that you're mentioning right now,
Mm,
like if that was an area that you're able to facilitate and that you're able to provide in that space, that is so special and so unique. And if you could find a way of sharing more of that in a beautiful celebration way,
mm,
because if we're talking about who's going to really treasure and honor the pieces that you create, then that is absolutely your customer base. So, how can you celebrate that? Like, a good example, right, would be I used to work in the bridal industry when I first started in the rag trade. And there was this really interesting trend where it became that you get your wedding bodice like framed into these picture frames that you commemorate it and you put it on the
Right.
wall. And it's so niche, but someone who does that as an offering, you go to their page and you 100% know that if you want to get your bodice framed, this is the person to go to.
I see what you're getting at. And I agree that I lack confidence in that area. Not just confidence. I think when I finish with a piece, like I've got to take time out because I'm putting together content, and then by the time the content is ready, I'm exhausted again because it took so many, like trying to condense 20 hours of work into like 1.5 minutes. And then do the YouTube, and then by then I'll be like, okay, where's my next sale? I'm gonna find the next sale.
So, but here's
I think that's the trap. That's a trap for
agreed. And
me.
that's about having that really clear plan and strategy that you can put into place so that every time that you're like, I'm not sure what to do, you've already got a list of like 100 different things that you can do so that you can pick one. And because I often find, and I feel like we're quite similar in a lot of ways, that I'm the same, very busy brain, very, spaghetti strands going in all directions, is that I can't always go, oh, I'll do that one, that one, that one, that one, that one in a row. But what I find is that when I have a list of
Mm,
100 ideas, I can pick one. And so it's almost, and because the thing is that when we're talking about, well, hey, what's your strategy going to be and what's your reach going to be? If you are really clear about the fact, I have decided that I'm going to do commemorative portraiture, and that can mean many different things, but commemorative portraiture as an example, it gives you the ability to do really specific searches and research based on that. So if we're talking about, the wonderful world of ChatGPT and what you can create there, you could now go in and go, I am repositioning myself as a commemorative
mm,
portrait artist. Give me 10 ideas for content that I can share on social media. Now, within that, there may be three nuggets in there that then send this part of your spaghetti brain going this way. And it's like, wow, I didn't even know they existed. And all of a sudden, it gives us the space to be able to ask really specific questions. If I was trying to nurture my customers in this space, how could I do this? So here's an example, and then ChatGPT will give you different ideas. A lot of them will be rubbish, and you'll think there's no way I'm doing that. But a lot of them will give you
mm.
really key ideas. And you know how before I was saying to you, I really want to talk to you a little bit about in-person stuff as well. Do you go along to any network events?
Oh God, no! I bail up of one last night.
See, but here's my
No, no, no,
here's
no,
here's my
no.
thoughts on this, right? Because I think that what happens is that when we think that we want to do online, right? We're like, right, I'm going to do online. I'm just going to purely do online. There's an assumption that it just replaces everything else. And the thing that I like about in person is that there are different connections that happen in person than do online. And I think online is amazing and it's the bigger part of the story. But what happens when we're creating in person is it actually gives us different ideas for what might work online. And the reason I mention network events, here's two different scenarios, right? Melbourne's full of actually really cool women in business events that you could go to, right? Okay, so you turn up at the meeting.
Okay.
Now you're like, I'm a custom artisan, right?
Mm,
The person that you're talking to go, oh, wow, that's amazing. I can't think of anything that I'd need. Scenario two, you walk into the same room and you say, I'm a commemorative portraiture artisan and I create everlasting pieces that bring the energy and the joy and da, da, da. Oh my goodness, I would love to get one of my mum. I would love to get. See how it's like you're almost automatically helping the person understand how to categorize you.
be less generic. I think that's my problem of because of my industrial design
Yeah.
background. It's always being hammered into us that you don't get too specific. You've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of capabilities, so make sure you're like a can do everything, which is the case. And for me to then switch gear into, I'm gonna be specializing in this. Like I also want to specialize in other stuff
I
because
totally,
they're
I
also
totally get
great.
that. But what I would
Hmm.
say is that when we're talking about priority, in order for you to be able to continue this and to have a lifelong journey as an artisan, is that the easiest way? And the most efficient way, right? We're talking about that return on investment with your time, is that you focus on one area. Now, let's say, for an example, because I love the one that you've done of the truck that you've got. That's kind of one that comes to mind. And my partner's obsessed with
Mhm.
cars, right? And I've had a custom portrait before I own made it of a car that he used to own, and he loves it. Anyway, but what I would say with that is that if you're able to bring customers in, right, in this commemorative space of portraiture, they will get other pieces done from you. And in fact, I think the second review that I saw in your reviews was someone that had already had one portrait done and had come back for another one, right? So the thing is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people have such a good experience that then they're like, oh yes, and I want more. When you're trying to open the door to everyone, you're opening the door to no one.
Yes, you mentioned that, and that's a very mature way of thinking. I think it's based because of your experience. So like, okay, don't get like too overwhelmed with all these other things that you can do,
Yeah,
but focus on one, and then this will branch out. I think that because I'm an amateur, obviously,
not at all.
I like to go. I'm just like,
I think, I
spread
think,
everywhere.
I think that you're avoiding the one thing that you need to do, which is you showing up more on socials. Like we can spend the entire time looping around all of the stuff, and it comes back to the one thing that when you distract yourself with other stuff is it allows you to hide behind the scenes and not create that connection. And if we're talking about, when you were sharing about the style of work that you love to do and that really lights you up, the one thing you need to have with that type of work is connection.
Hmm. Yes, yes. It's funny. People will think, "Oh, you're so social because you like connection." I like the connection, the intimate connection, but I do not enjoy the idea of like you said, networking. I'm like, oh my God, no, no, it's scary.
I
It's
think I
scary.
think what happens is that when the reason why I love the idea of networking is you'll be surprised the conversations that you have. Because often when we're trying to build something out on online, it's not often that it's actually a proper two-way conversation. Often it's quite one-sided. And what I like to do and I'm not saying
Mm.
that networking is the thing, right? I'm just saying it as an example. But like if we're talking about expanding your reach, getting that regular income, it's like it's not just doing one thing that makes it right, but it's like what's all of the stuff that I'm bringing together. I was looking through to see if you shared much in the Facebook group, the Made It Facebook group, the public one, and I didn't really see a lot of stuff from you. But again,
The public, no,
yeah, which
you're
is
right.
which is,
Actually,
and,
I prefer the private one because it's fun.
and I
The public one,
and I get that
ooh.
it's fun, but and I'm not saying you have to do the networking thing, right? But I'm like, if you committed to going to a network event that was like once a month and you just like each time you go, you just go, oh, right,
Yeah,
I'm going to put my business clothes on. And I don't mean business clothes, I mean like your business hat, right? Like your metaphorical, energetic
yeah,
business
yeah, yeah.
hat. And you go, I'm going to try saying something different this time. Because then you can research it and go, okay, if I'm feeling really uncomfortable going to this network event, give me 10 ideas for what I can say. And I'm a commemorative portraiture artisan because it means that you could literally go, oh, and they go, oh, what do? You go, oh, I'm actually an artist, but I specialize in commemorative portraiture stuff. Like I just had this
Yeah.
beautiful woman who came to me this week and her dog had passed and we did the most gorgeous photo. And the person will be like, oh, who do I know? Oh, that person's pet. Oh, my best friend. Her pet died and she was devastated. I'm sure she would love
Mm,
a custom portrait.
I see. Yes.
So it's just, and then
It's
you
just a
see how
different
they
way of
react.
approaching.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then you
That,
nurture
yeah.
that with regular socials. So the person that you've connected with in person, then you're like, oh, of course. Hey, let's trade socials. Where are you? Let's follow each other, blah, blah, blah. And then when they go on, you're in your
Mm.
stories and you're like, hey, I just got an amazing new pen and it's blowing my mind away. Let me show you what it does. Not that particular thing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah. To keep the connection, the
Connection,
energy from the connection going. Yeah.
connection,
No, I
energy.
see. I understand the theory. I understand the theory.
For you to get the most out of this session, what would be the one thing that you know that you could go and implement straight away after this call?
Straight away, I will be sharing more of what I get up to when I'm not doing work stuff. For example, how I recently went to Metang. So I went for a walk
Oh,
through this
stop
like beach
it.
area. And I'm like, oh, that was a really nice walk because I found this area where there's nobody there and there's like driftwood, water was flat, and
Oh,
then a red fox was following me. And I found a dead pelican, so I'd like, and that was me because I found some feathers.
oh.
I put
Do you know
feathers in
what?
my hair.
Straight away, I'm like, so I'm thinking about, what you could share there in that instance. And you could do a story and just go, does anyone know what significance a red fox would be? Like, even just like little engagement bits like that. And,
Right,
all of a
right.
sudden your audience is like, oh, let me find out, red fox spirit animal. Like, it's kind of like
Mm.
you're creating two-way conversations because the number one thing that has to happen when you're doing custom portrait is a two-way conversation has to start.
I see. You kind of, it's like you get the attention. You sprinkle a little bit of, I'm going to call them bait, but they're probably a nicer name to call them. Little intrigue. Little intrigue
I
to what's about to come, something like
No,
that.
I think you're honestly in that, like that example that you're giving of sharing that is such a true reflection of exactly who you are, showing your art, but also you are someone that walks down the street and gets inspired and wants to sit there and draw a picture. Like that is an amazing story that people want to be a part of. And when
Mm.
someone's investing in a piece of artwork, they're like I look at pieces of artwork that I've got a piece just that I'm looking straight ahead at. I love it so much. It's literally a pen drawing. I look at it and I just go, I'm amazed at how talented that person is. I think it's actually just sharing parts of you that you're not already sharing.
Yeah. Uh, I think it's to do with confidence as well. And of course, I disguise that as, oh, I'm a private person. The confidence part is like, who wants to see that? That's just like, it's nothing.
Okay, so the
And
best
then, of course,
way,
after,
the best way to
mm,
to deal with confidence is to rip that band-aid off.
just get into
Just
it.
do it.
Just do it. Yeah, yeah, I know,
And
I know.
anything that is honestly that you're like, that was terrible and I'm mortified, delete it. But I bet you'll find that some of the oddest things that you think, oh my goodness, like I can't believe I put that, will be the stuff that gets the most engagement.
Yeah, I noticed that, and then I'm thought, that's gross. And then I don't want to look at it again. What do you do?
You just get used to your reflection. That's what happens.
Oh, oh,
And
mm.
that's what honestly happens in this process
Okay.
as an artist in your personal growth story is that the more that you do the thing, the more that you rip the band-aid off, the more that you're giving yourself the opportunity to have a creative life that also gives you an income.
Yes, that's very true. That's very true. I think a lot of the blocks are like self-created,
Of
really.
course, of course.
The only one stopping is this one. This one is the only one making all that block. It's not
So,
so much the economy.
no, it's
It's
not.
just
The
yeah.
economy has nothing to do with it. There's plenty of people out there with lots of money. And when it comes to commemorative, if
Yes.
it's part of a healing journey, it's
Mm,
it has so much more value. And when you were talking about the journey with your customers and about how it goes on, like you got the connection, you're doing
mm,
and
mm,
then you talked about the price.
mm.
When people connect with you and they know who you are and they know what you'll deliver to a certain point, the price becomes irrelevant.
For certain people, I agree with that. But I've had a lot of potential customers who are like, oh, I loved it, and told me the whole story, And I was like connecting, like, oh yeah, I can vision this, and then like here's the quote. So option, I always give like maybe two or three quotes, lowest to highest. And they're like, oh, yeah.
So that's where
Let me get back to
so
you.
that's where
That's
you need
yeah,
to add a layer on top there about really connecting with who your ideal customer is. And the more that you can build out that avatar, the more that you can build that into your wording. Because let's say even words like everlasting, commemorative, extremely special, like there's actually keywords that can be added into your social comms, into everything that you do, which will naturally attract a
yeah,
different type of customer.
yes,
Because your work takes so many hours, it can't be for everyone. Like that's just a fact. You could be working for peanuts, right? Like it's just a fact.
yes, yes, yeah.
And
I just
maybe,
have
and
to
maybe if you want to,
number one, show up first.
yeah,
Show up.
absolutely.
That's number one, because that's the scariest part. The rest business stuff I can work out, but this bit, this is scary. Mm.
Well, I just want to say that A, you've got this, and B, feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes, yes. Just before we go,
Yes.
uh, this is how sporadic the spaghetti flow. So after all that, like, oh, this is so almost poetic journey, right? Myself, and then I went, I'm hungry. I'm gonna have hot cross buns. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. What are the Easter tradition all around the world? So,
I love
oh,
this.
so I made this.
I love
It's like
this.
the Swedish feather and
You,
Malta, Italy. I'm like,
I think you've just found your ready-made product that you might be able to create later on. It's a notebook that is a journey for people with spaghetti minds. I'm not even joking. And throughout the book, it's got pages
oh
of you
dear.
giving them 100 ideas for spaghetti brains.
That's a thing, right? Spaghetti
Well, and you can like you'd
brain.
work on it because what we're really saying is that for all of us out there with the, you know, busy brains,
Yes.
non-traditional, and it could even be like a kid's book, right? You're creating a journal to give your kids, and it's like 100 ideas for what you can do. It's like walk down to the river and see if you can find a red fox.
Why not?
And then the next
Bring a
page, and
stick.
then the next page is, have you ever thought about what's the most traditional things at Easter? Someone with a busy brain is
Hmm.
like, oh my God, this book is perfect for me. 100 days,
It's so
100
random.
days of journaling for creative brains.
I have never thought of making a journal, actually.
I just think, and something that really celebrates your uniqueness, that'll be the key. But that's for later. I don't want to throw you off on a rabbit hole there. We're going to go commemorative
That's all right.
portraiture
I wrote it.
first.
I've written it down. It's in the
I love.
journal.
Hey, Marcelena, thank you so much for
Thank
trusting
you.
me in this process and for coming and sharing your story and your honesty and your transparency as well with what's going on for you. I know that there will be so many artisans who will actually gain a huge amount of benefit from listening to you share your story. So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Happy to share. Happy to share the journey.
Thank you. And if for anyone who's
Nothing to
and for
hide.
anyone who's not already following Marcelena, go and follow her on everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Illustrations by Herman. Her work is absolutely stunning.
Thank you. Oh, and I've got a YouTube as well
Oh, and
with a
YouTube. Yay.
yeah
Awesome.
longer time lapse,
I love it.
longer than 1.5 minutes.
I love it. I love it. It's got its place. Hey, have an awesome day and I'll talk to you really soon.
Thanks, Lena. Bye, everyone.